Let me ask you something. How many times have you smiled while swallowing something that hurt? How many times have you told yourself, it's fine, it's not a big deal? They probably didn't mean it. But later that night, you replayed it in your head. That comment, that tone, that look, and you felt it. That tight pressure in your chest, that quiet frustration you couldn't explain, that subtle shift where your confidence dropped just a little. Here's what most people don't realize. Disrespect doesn't usually enter your life like a storm. It slips in like a whisper, a joke that crosses the line, a boundary that gets tested, a feeling that gets dismissed. Small moments, but powerful messages, and the first time you ignore it, you send a message back. You teach people what you will accept. You train them on your standards, because people don't rise to your expectations. They adjust to your tolerances. Today, we're exposing 5 forms of disrespect you should never normalize. Not in love, not in business, not in family, not anywhere. Because protecting your peace isn't dramatic. It isn't selfish. It's self-respect. And self-respect changes everything. You've seen this before. Someone throws a harmless joke your way in front of a group. The room laughs. You force a smile. You play along. But inside, it hits different. It's not the joke. It's the intention. Then comes the follow-up. Relax, I'm just kidding. Why are you so sensitive? Notice how the blame shifts to you. Here's the truth. When someone repeatedly embarrasses you in public and hides it behind humor, that's not comedy. It's control. It's a subtle power move, a way of testing how much disrespect you're willing to tolerate. Healthy humor builds connection. It makes everyone feel included. It never targets someone's insecurities, mistakes, or private struggles. But disrespectful humor isolates. It singles you out. It chips away at your confidence while giving them applause. And if someone constantly makes you the punchline, that's not just their personality. It's insecurity wrapped in charisma. It's someone trying to elevate themselves by lowering you. A person who truly values you protects your dignity, especially in public. They don't trade your respect for cheap laughs. Never tolerate anyone who needs to shrink you to feel bigger. That's not humor, that's humiliation. Let's clear something up. There's a big difference between someone being busy and someone being dismissive. We all have responsibilities, work, family, deadlines. Life gets full. But when someone consistently ignores your messages, avoids serious conversations, disappears when things get uncomfortable, and suddenly reappears only when they need something, that's not forgetfulness, that's priority. Respect doesn't always respond instantly, but it responds intentionally. It says, I saw this, I care, I'll get back to you. It makes space for what matters. If someone has time to scroll social media for hours, comment on other people's posts, stay active online, but can't return your call or acknowledge your message, they're not overwhelmed. They're choosing. And the hard truth is this: when someone repeatedly ignores you during moments that matter, they're communicating your value without saying a word. You should never tolerate feeling invisible in a relationship that claims to appreciate you. Attention is effort. Effort is investment. And investment is respect. If someone only shows up when it benefits them, that's convenience, not care. You deserve consistency, not crumbs. This one doesn't scream. It whispers. You finally speak up. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like when you talk to me that way. I need some space. And instead of respect, you get resistance. You're overreacting. It's not that serious. You've changed. Pay attention to that shift. The moment you set a boundary, they try to make you feel guilty for having one. Here's the translation. They were comfortable when you had none. When someone keeps pushing your limits after you've clearly expressed them, that's not confusion. That's control. That's someone testing how firm your standards really are. Healthy people may not fully understand your boundary, but they honor it anyway. They care more about keeping your trust than winning the argument. Manipulative people do the opposite. They debate your boundary. They minimize it. They challenge it. They treat it like a wall they need to break through. But a boundary isn't an obstacle. It's a standard. And the moment someone treats your standard like an inconvenience, that's your red flag. Never tolerate repeated boundary violations, because every time you let it slide, you send a message. My limits are flexible. And respect disappears where limits are negotiable. Watch this pattern closely. Some people are loud supporters when you're struggling. They show up when you're broke, heartbroken, rebuilding. They feel comfortable when you're trying to figure it out. But the moment you start winning, the moment you gain confidence, the moment doors begin to open, they go quiet. They'll congratulate you in private, send a quick text, maybe even say they're proud. But in public, silence. No support, no celebration, no energy. That's not loyalty. That's positioning. It's someone who was comfortable standing next to you when you were small, but feels threatened when you stand tall. Real loyalty doesn't shrink when you grow. It expands with you. It claps louder. It stands beside you without insecurity. If someone only supports you when your success doesn't challenge their ego, that's not friendship. That's comparison. And comparison quietly turns into resentment. Resentment quietly turns into disrespect. You deserve people who celebrate your evolution, not tolerate it. Never accept selective support, because the right people won't dim when you shine. They'll glow with you. This one cuts deep. You finally open up. You explain how something made you feel. You speak honestly, maybe even vulnerably. And instead of being heard, you're dismissed. You're too emotional. That never happened. You always twist things. You're being dramatic. Notice what just happened. The focus shifts from the behavior to attacking your reaction. That's emotional minimization. And when it happens repeatedly, it can turn into something even more damaging. Gaslighting. A slow erosion of your confidence in your own perception. When someone constantly invalidates your feelings, they're not trying to understand you. They're trying to control the narrative. They're conditioning you to second guess yourself, to wonder, maybe I am overreacting. But here's the truth. Your feelings are data. They're signals. They tell you when something feels safe and when it doesn't. Respect doesn't require someone to agree with every emotion you have. It requires acknowledgement. It requires listening. It requires care. You don't need someone to fully understand your heart, but you absolutely need them to respect that it exists. Never tolerate anyone who makes you question your reality to protect theirs. That's not love. That's manipulation. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. Sometimes disrespect doesn't continue because the other person is powerful. It continues because we allow it. Not because we're weak, not because we lack value, but because we're afraid. Afraid of conflict, afraid of being labeled difficult, afraid of losing the relationship, afraid of ending up alone. So we stay quiet. We rationalize. We tell ourselves it's not worth the argument. We compromise our standards to keep the peace. But here's the cost. Every time you tolerate disrespect, your internal standard drops just a little. And once your standard drops, your self-worth slowly follows. You start accepting less, expecting less, believing you deserve less, and that's how powerful people shrink themselves without realizing it. The strongest response isn't explosive, it's not dramatic, it's not emotional, it's calm, clear, controlled. That doesn't work for me. I'm not okay with that. If this continues, I'll step back. No yelling, no chaos, just certainty. Because boundaries aren't threats, they're filters. They expose who truly respects you and who only respected how easy you were to control. Let me leave you with something that could change your life if you truly accept it. You teach people how to treat you, not through speeches, not through threats, not through emotional reactions, but through what you consistently allow. Every time you stay silent when something crosses the line, every time you laugh off what hurt you, every time you tolerate behavior that feels wrong, you send a message. And the message is simple. This is acceptable. Disrespect doesn't grow because it's powerful. It grows because standards are silent. You don't need to argue with everyone who disrespects you. You don't need revenge to prove a point. You don't need drama to defend your value. You need clarity about what you will and will not accept, consistency in enforcing it, and courage to walk away when necessary. Because here's the shift most people fear. When you stop tolerating disrespect, some people will fall away. But you're not losing relationships, you're losing access to the wrong ones, and that's not rejection, that's alignment. When your standards rise, your circle refines, and respect becomes the minimum, not the exception.